Well, been quite a few changes, well, minimal changes since the last time I posted a video. I would say that we haven't made a whole lot of progress on this thing since the last time I posted. And I haven't really gone back and watched the last video I posted just to kind of give you an update on where we were at. So some of this might overlap, but we are to a point where we are starting to get this thing started. We've had quite a bit of hell with it, and I'll kind of go through that a little bit, but it's not been a fun journey for something that's supposed to be plug and play. Like the ECM that we have is supposed to be plug it in, change a few parameters to the from the K20 to the K24, change displacement, change crank triggering, change injector size, calibrate sensors like MAP and TPS, and it's supposed to just kick off. And the most frustrating thing about this entire situation is that that's pretty much exactly what we did to Alex's car after we had to troubleshoot a grounding issue, and it fired right off. Same engine, same ECU, obviously different engine harness and chassis harness, but for the most part, everything I can see lines up the way it's supposed to, and his runs and mine doesn't. So pretty frustrated with the car right now. Anyways, we'll kind of go through what we've done to get to this point, and I guess tell you a little bit about what I'm fighting. So dash obviously still out of this car. I don't want to put it back in until I get everything running and functioning the way it's supposed to. So I've mentioned in videos before, I'm too old to be laying on my head underneath the dash. So we wanted to get it to pop off before we tied up all this and put the dash back in. So for the most part, everything is wired up to where it should run, right? The A and B connectors are installed. The E harness is installed. And everything looks to be wired correctly on the harness. I've got all my troubleshooting paperwork with pinouts and wire colors and all that stuff over here. And here's my duct that doesn't leave the car. But it's been kind of a rodeo. This is supposed to go fairly smooth, and it has not been smooth at all. We do have power. We can get it to crank, and most times, I say that, maybe I'll update a little bit more. We can get it to crank. I've taken the pulley off, or the belt off, to just get the crank to turn. That doesn't make any sense. But anyways, I'll pull the pulley off so I could actually see the timing marks on the crank. Also didn't want to burn up my water pump. It doesn't have any glycol or water in here, and I was really concerned about burning up the water pump. I know that it will probably function just fine upon startup, but I didn't want to mess it up, so I took it off. That might sound dumb to some people, but it is what it is. Anyways, cranking looks good. It cranks over fine. We do have fuel pressure. Fuel pressure's been set. MAP has been calibrated. TPS has been calibrated. Everything works. We are getting signal to the crank sensors. This is a 4+1 chopper wheel, and it is reading in the trigger scope and the ECM 4+1. And it does line up with the crank position sensor down here in the bottom. So it is also reading 12+1 on the crank trigger. So these two line up and sync the way they're supposed to in the scope, and we still do not get proper ignition. So I did an injector test. All of these injectors function 1 through 4 the way they're supposed to. They're wired correctly. They're firing when they're supposed to be firing per the ECM or ECU. Same with the coils. The coils 1 through 4 are all wired correctly and triggering when they're supposed to, from what I can tell in the ECU. Everything is, from what I can tell, wired correctly. And trust me, this is probably week 2 of troubleshooting this thing and trying to figure out what's going on. We've had my buddies over here looking at it. We've looked at everything. Cam wiring, cam sensor wiring, signal wiring, make sure all the polarities are right. Even the crank sensor, I know from a K20 to a K24, the pinout is different with a different connector. We verified that everything on the crank sensor is correct. All of the wires are pinned correctly. All of the grounds are good. The engine is seeing what it's supposed to. But when we crank it, we are still getting basically backfires, right? Backfires and coughs through the exhaust and the intake. So I'm still pretty frustrated with it. Link ECU. If you watch other videos, this car has a Link G4X in it. It is a DC5 plug and play. And there's only certain parameters you really should have to modify in order to get this running. We've actually taken the ECU out of Alex's car, the Accord, with the same, pretty much the same exact setup that I have in my car. I placed it in this car, and we get the same results, right? His ECU works in his car, runs great. We put it in my car, backfires. So I am leaning toward, the only thing difference between this is probably an engine harness. I don't know what the difference would be in it, but maybe how it's wired. It's getting the wrong signal somewhere. So he has an engine harness that he's got, that he has offered to let me borrow to put on this thing to see if it will crank and run. But regardless, I want to figure out if that is the issue. It would be great because I know what the issue is and I can start troubleshooting this harness. But I really want to figure out what's going on with this harness so I can correct it and leave it in the car, right? It's already wired into the car. But I want to figure out what the issue is so I can at least report it back to the people that made the harness. But I really don't think there's anything wrong with the ECU. We reached out to the Link ECU website. They have a forum. There's a guy on there, Adam W., that troubleshoots a lot of these cars, especially with people that have stuff that have no starts or timing issues or whatever the case might be. And he's really good at what he does. And so far, we've had a full day of conversation and he hasn't been able to identify anything wrong with the ECU. So that tells me that the ECU is more than likely not the problem. I know potentially the engine is not the problem. We have checked back. Granted, we did do VTC gear on the intake. We did put a K20 pulley on it. We retimed everything. I have double checked and verified everything on that to make sure that it is in time and the way it's supposed to be. That's why the valve cover is loose, right? I've already gone back through that actually twice to make sure that it is not an engine timing issue with how the cam and crank are aligned. I really do think that it's something in the wiring, mainly because I can't get a timing light to work. When the timing is, I guess when you do your initial startup, you're supposed to check base timing with all of the coils removed, or not coils. How do you do it? You basically are checking for spark with the injectors off. So you turn the injectors off, you roll the engine over with no fuel to verify you're getting a timing light and your number one is hitting at top dead center or 10 degrees before top dead center. And when I test the coils, the timing light lights up, but when I crank it over, I get intermittent, right? Sometimes it'll hit, the timing light will flash. Most of the times it doesn't. So that would explain why this engine cranks and cranks and cranks and never fires. And the one time that I did get it to fire for like a split second, from what I gather, that's just luck of the draw on the ECU trying to figure out what's going on and fire as needed. And that's like a shot in the dark. The fact that it cranked that one time was like a needle in a haystack. Like it's impressive that it even cranked off without getting the proper information it needed. So for some reason, it is cutting ignition or power to the coils during cranking, and that's why my timing light is not functioning. So Link is looking at the ECU to make sure that there's nothing wrong with that. And then once that's verified, which I think that it's going to be verified that it's not the ECU, but I'll start troubleshooting the harness. And I'll be damned if I put Alex's harness on this thing and it cranks up first time. That would be a great scenario to have, but I'll also have to hear about it for the next eternity for after owning this car to where he was right and I was wrong. So that's kind of the update on the car. The carpet is back in it for the most part. All the fuel system is wired up. So next step is putting the dash in it, but I want to get everything figured out before I start putting the dash in and tidying up all the ECU. So that's it. And then we will, once we get a crank on it, we will put the radiator in it, get the radiator hoses mounted, and fill it, get some fans on it, wire the fans in. I still need to do that. And then we'll start worrying about chassis stuff like headlights, turn signals, all of that. I do have to lengthen both sides of the harness, this one and that one over there, to tuck up underneath the side and then pull in here to go to the back side of the headlights. And then there's not much else after that. Yeah, it's nice to look at, but we still got a long way to go. Don't mind the throttle cable. This is horrible. This is supposed to be out of like a 90-something CRX. And this is Duck Duck Goose when you order them from Amazon. Sometimes you get the short one. And then sometimes you get the long one. And we can't figure out. I think we've ordered like 3 of these and only one of them was correct. Or probably more than 3 of them, but only one of them was correct for the application. So this one is working just for me to be able to operate the throttle body from inside of the car, but this is going away at some point. But anyways, that's where we're at. Obviously, this is still left loose because I'm still digging into it to make sure that all that is correct. I gotta put it all back together, but I'm waiting on a response back from Link to see if there's anything else that I want to troubleshoot before I button all that up. And to be honest with you, kind of frustrated with it now. I hadn't touched it in 3 days, and semi-okay with that. Anyways, so that is the update on the hatch. Not much else has changed with anything else. But once we get it where it will run, or maybe even before it runs, I don't know, maybe some more troubleshooting. Who knows? Hopefully this doesn't last too long, but I will update you guys as I progress. Appreciate you watching, and I guess until the next time, that's it.